Hi friends, welcome to our online class English Competitive Examinations. I am Ashok, Presidency Career Point, Thrissur. As you all know, for any competitive examination, English is an essential part, especially when it comes to bank tests. You know, there are 4 parts in a question paper. Of the 4 parts, definitely the most important part is English, because without clearing the English part, you cannot clear other parts also. That means this is one of the clearing parts or qualifying parts. I need not stress the importance of English not only for bank exams but also for other competitive examinations like civil services, staff selection commission and for PSC classes. Anyhow, I know that you all are eager to learn English, and that is why you are watching this video. In our institution, I can say for sure we have discovered the sure shot method or the most efficacious method that you can have from anywhere in India or abroad. You can see for yourself what I am going to do here. I think that you don't mind me speaking in English. So far you have tried to learn the English language, approaching different teachers, approaching guides. Various kinds of guides are available at our bookshops, but you soon find that they are of no use at all. 1 or 2 or at the most 3 lessons you may find helpful, but as you go along reading, you will find it rather boring and you get nowhere. The result is your state remains the same, unchanged at all. So we are offering the best method. Let us see what we are going to do. Maybe you are conversant in the English language. To some extent you can communicate. Maybe sometimes you can appear before an interview board and communicate and express yourself and all that. I agree. At the same time, when it comes to writing down or answering the written questions, you find it rather difficult. With utmost confidence you answer a question, but what happens is the other way around. When the results come out, you don't find your name on the list. What has gone wrong between you and your examination? That is what we are going to find out. In fact, there is a problem and we are going to troubleshoot that problem by practical methods. Let me be frank. We are approaching the English language, mastering the English language through a structural method. We all know that there are over 700 languages the world over, from the most underdeveloped language to the most developed languages. In all these languages, there is a common feature. In all these languages, it is a wide spectrum of languages. There are many languages, from the most difficult language, namely Chinese, to the simplest language. I am saying for sure it is in the English language. You may be wondering why English or how English can be the simplest one. So after you have seen this video, you will feel that the English language is the simplest one. Okay, then we give a go to our class. Please see what I have written on the board. I have written against the number 1, Tom. As you know, Tom is a name. So grammatically we call it noun. This is not a new piece of information for you. And secondly, you see he. This is also familiar to you. I am not introducing this for the first time because this has become much familiar to you. So what is he? He actually stands instead of Tom. Tom is the proper name of a person. What is the noun? Noun can stand for anything. Any naming sound can be a noun. It can be the name of a person. It can be the name of a place. It can be the name of an object, a condition or situation, no matter what. If it happens to be a naming sound, it is a noun. Grammatically, we call it noun. So, Tom is the noun. Once I have introduced Tom, see, Tom is a smart boy. Tom studies well. Tom reads well. Tom loves his parents well. Tom goes to market every day. So you will find it rather awkward because I repeatedly say Tom, 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 Tom in all the sentences. That is rather awkward. So in order to avoid this awkwardness, we know once I have introduced Tom, I was supposed to say he instead of Tom. That would avoid this monotony. So what does he do? In fact, he stands instead of Tom. Therefore, he is a proxy noun. Proxy noun means substitute noun. So he is a substitute for noun or Tom. Therefore, proxy noun for short we call pronoun. So pronoun is a proxy noun. Similarly, we come to smart. I said Tom is a smart boy. What is this Tom? I mean smart. You know, smart qualifies Tom. It is a qualifying sound. Smart. Therefore, we call that adjective grammatical. It is adjective. Adjective is any qualifying sound. This is only grammatical term. In fact, we need not be proficient with all these names. But this happens to be learned at this junction. Now, what about these drives? Tom drives very carefully. Tom drives home. See, drives. Tom drove home yesterday. Or Tom drove to Delhi yesterday. Tom drives very carefully. Regularly he drives very carefully. See, drives. Tom will drive carefully tomorrow. So I have mentioned the three tenses with drive. So what is drive? We know for sure drive is a verb. So the sound that denotes an action is the verb. So verb here. And let us come to carefully. What is carefully? I say Tom drives very carefully. What does carefully do here in this sentence? Grammatically, this modifies the verb drives. How does Tom drive? It is answer to the question how. So carefully satisfies the question how does Tom drive? Carefully. So it is adverb. So the sound that modifies an action or a verb is adverb. We have seen that the sound that stands instead of a noun is pronoun. The sound that qualifies a noun is adjective, and the sound that does an action is verb, and the sound that modifies the verb is adverb. So we have come through the 5 parts of speech. This is very much familiar to you. You must have been taught in your school classes by your teachers that there are 8 parts of speech. The whole language is a construction of all these 8 parts of speech and all that. Now let us come to this one. What is this part? We know that Tom's house is in Thrissur, or Tom's house is in India. Tom lives in India. Okay, in India. What does this do? This indicates the position in which his house is situated. So this is what we call preposition. This is technically called a preposition for another reason, because this is always used before a noun, pre-posed. It is posed before. Since it is posed before a noun, we call this preposition. Now let us come to and. Tom and John are friends. Tom and John are friends. So what does and do here? And connects John and Tom. So this is a connective sound. This is used at a junction. A conjunction is always used at a junction, except for some conjunctions. Almost all the conjunctions are used at the junction. Therefore, it is connected at the junction, that is conjunction. Now let us come to this sound O. When it is very hot, people say, oh, how hot this is. What does this O stand for? We know that though this does not carry any definite meaning whatsoever at all, this expresses a strong emotion. So this carries a strong emotion, though it doesn't have a definite meaning. So from the utterance of this sound itself, we infer that this carries a meaning. It has a strong emotion in it. Therefore, this sound is called interject, because this is interjected. It is interjection. And thus we have come through the 8 parts of speech. As your teacher must have taught in your school classes or elsewhere, that a language is a construction or a composition of all these 8 parts of speech in the most grammatical construction. Okay, this is very familiar to you. Okay, now I want you to forget about everything what we have discussed right now. Please forget about everything. Now we are thinking about how we can learn a language. I said that all languages the world over share a unique feature. What is that unique feature? Let us find out. Before that, we are considering a car, a modern car. It has got all the modern facilities. It has got all the good looks, safety measures, and everything is intact but for an engine. Suppose the car doesn't have an engine. Can you call it a car? It is not a car, because the chief function of a car is to take you to places. If the car cannot take you to places, you cannot call it a working car. It is only a non-working model of a car. So what makes a car moving? From the example we have seen that it is the engine that keeps the car going, or keeps the car active and dynamic. So it is this part, or it is this one part that makes it a car. In spite of all other parts being intact, without the engine, the car doesn't function. So car is an organization, or it is a composition of different hundreds and hundreds of parts. In spite of all these parts, from minor to major, if the car doesn't have an engine, it can never be a car. Okay, that is noticeable. Let us go to a museum where you happen to see the model of a human being. The model almost looks like a live man, living man, except for a heart. It cannot move. It has all the limbs. The model has all the limbs, legs, hands, face, eyes, and everything is perfectly okay. It almost looks like alive, but it doesn't have a heart. It doesn't work. It is not a working model. It is only a non-working model. So it is the heart that makes the human body active, because it is the heart that pumps blood to all organs and make the body active. Similarly, for any organization like this, organization I mean using parts together, functioning singularly, that is an organization. For any organization like this, there should be a single part that keeps the whole system going dynamic. Which is that dynamic part regarding the English language? Let us try to find it out. Suppose we don't know in the beginning. I say Tom. Now I am going to mention the three tenses with which you are already familiar. Tenses. See, Tom is a nice boy, or Tom is a smart boy. Tom works very well. Tom goes to church on Sundays. Okay, Tom. Tom went to market yesterday. Went to market. Tom will go to market tomorrow. So in all these sentences, I have mentioned the three tenses: present, past, and future. But you must have noticed, or you might have, probably you have noticed, that I repeatedly said Tom, Tom, Tom in all the three tenses. That gives us a very important piece of information. That is nothing but what? A noun is always constant irrespective of the change of the tenses. The tense goes from present to past. Tom remains the same. It again goes from past to future. Tom remains the same. Tom doesn't undergo any sort of change whatsoever. Okay, that gives us a very important piece of information, that a noun is always constant. Tom being a noun, Tom remains constant. In the present, we say Tom. In the past, we say Tom. In the future also, we say Tom. So Tom doesn't take even a spelling change. When we go from tense to tense, noun remains constant. That is very important. Keep in mind, noun is a constant something, constant in the language, because a noun has got only one function. The noun has got only one function. What about he? He, as I described, he stands instead of the proper noun Tom. Therefore, pronoun also is constant. Pronoun is also constant. Then what about smart? Tom is a smart boy. That is present. Tom was a smart boy. That is past. Tom will be a smart boy. That is future. In all the three tenses, smart also remains constant. As you know, smart being adjective, that is also constant. So adjective is also constant. Then what about speaks? Tom speaks English. Tom spoke English. Tom will speak English. So I have mentioned the three tenses. Tom speaks English, or Tom is speaking English. It is continuous. Tom spoke English, that is past. Tom will speak, that is future. So in all the three tenses, the verb speak doesn't remain constant. The verb only undergoes change, whereas Tom remains constant, or he remains constant. Speak doesn't remain constant. It keeps changing. From tense to tense, the verb keeps changing. Therefore, we call speak or the verb as dynamic. Verb is dynamic. So how comes this dual nature? Because the verb has dual nature. What are the functions of a verb? We have seen that speak is an action that suggests an action. Speak, it is an action. At the same time, when I said Tom spoke English, along with the action, I also mentioned when he spoke. That clearly mentions the action is over. The action is no longer going on. It is clearly over. So the verb has two functions: mentioning not only the action but also the time of action, the tense. So the verb has dual function. Therefore, it keeps changing from tense to tense. In the present tense, the verb has one form, and in the past it assumes another shape. In the future again it assumes another shape. Okay, now the verb is dynamic. Don't forget, it is very important, vitally important. Though it sounds very simple, okay, it is easy to understand. At the same time, this is very much important in the study of the English language, because it is the verb that keeps us going. Now let us consider cleverly. What is cleverly? Cleverly, as we know, modifies the verb speak. How does Tom speak? Tom speaks cleverly. Tom spoke cleverly, it is past. Tom will speak cleverly, that is future. But in all the three tenses, cleverly remains the same. That's why I say it is constant. Cleverly is adverb. So it is adverb, and adverb is also constant. Then what about in? Tom lives in Kerala. Tom lived in Delhi. Tom will live in Kannur. What do I really mean? In all these places, I have used it in constantly. In the three tenses, when I changed from tense to tense, I didn't make any change with the verb, preposition in. In, the preposition is also constant. Preposition, it is constant. That's also very important. Now let us consider and. Tom and John are friends. Are friends means it is present. Tom and John were friends. That means past. Tom and John will be friends in the future. So that is future tense. So in all the three tenses, I have repeatedly said the same and also remains constant. Therefore, and the conjunction also remains constant. Then what about alas? Alas being the strong expression of a strong emotion, that also is constant. That is interjection. So interjection is also constant. So what we have totally understood from this discussion is that the only sound that keeps changing from tense to tense and from action to action is the verb. Therefore, the most important part of speech of a language is the verb. That will take us to the secrets of language that I will describe soon. Wait. So I have explained that the most important part of a language is the verb, other parts being constant. This is very important piece of information. It is very vital. You are supposed to remember this well. Now let us configure the verb. As I said, a verb has two parts. Which are the two parts? As you remember, the first part goes to the tense and the second part goes to the action. Okay, as in the case with every description about the English language as compared to our mother language, Malayalam, we will start from the second part to the first part. And you know, in the normal course of things, an action has four manners. That means naturally four manners. In the normal course of things, artificially there are umpteen number of actions. But here, when we study the tenses and the action pattern, we have got only four manners of action, and this form you have seen on the board, written on the board. As you see, this is the lexical form of the verb. Lexical form of the verb, I mean this form, the very base form of the verb is the form of the verb that you look up a dictionary for its meaning. This has got other meanings, and it is not that form that we look up a dictionary for the meaning. We look up a dictionary for the meaning of this part. Therefore, this part that means to go is simple form. Maybe you have a doubt. What is this to? This is nothing but, I said, this to is a filler for tense. When there is no tense here, we fill the space with to, like what we do in Malayalam. Anyhow, this form to go is the symbol form of action. Is symbol a tense? Never. Symbol is not a tense. It is only a manner of action or no manner of action. Then you know, as you have studied in your school classes, this go can be changed into going form. This is actually grammatically called present participle of the verb. But this present participle, ing form added with any lexical form is really the present participle. But this present participle is needed for making it continuous action. As we know, the second manner of action is continuous. This is the second manner of action is continuous. But this doesn't simply make continuous. As you know, the ing form simply makes only the present participle. This simply doesn't make continuous. in order to make or give it a continuous effect, we have to help it with an auxiliary verb be, and this has now become continuous. So unless you configure the verb in this manner, it cannot be continuous. If there is no ing, it cannot be continuous. Even if there is the ing at the end of the verb, if it is not preceded by the be form, it is not continuous. So it is compulsory that ing form should be preceded by a be form, or a be form should be followed by an ing form. When such a condition is satisfied, we call that manner of action continuous. Okay, now let us take the fourth manner of action, that is, we take the V3 form. In your school classes and elsewhere, you must have studied the three forms of verbs. We know that a verb has three forms. Go, for example, go, went, and gone. This is V1, this is V2, this is V3. And these are the three forms which you have already studied. Okay, so this one is the third form, V3 form. What is this form needed for? This form is needed for making a perfect mode of action. Perfect is only a mode of action. It is not a tense. Like what? Simple is not a tense. Continuous is not a tense. Similarly, perfect form is also not a tense. But this third form doesn't simply make a perfect. It must be supported like ing. ing was supported by be, whereas the perfect form, for making a perfect action, we need the third form. But this must be duly preceded by a have. Have here doesn't have any tense at all. The have should be followed by the V3 form in order to make it a perfect action. So this is perfect. So what does this to do here? This to does here nothing but standing instead of the tense. That means this tense part remains unfilled. These verbs don't have tense forms. They don't have tenses. That means they are non-finite verbs. As you know, a verb without a tense is non-finite. When a verb has a definite tense, it is finite. Okay, now we have gone through the three manners of action. The simple form to go, and the continuous form to be going, and the perfect form to have gone. So in this we have mentioned that we have taken the lexical form first to make simple, and we added an ing at the end of the lexical form preceded by be to make it continuous. In fact, this doesn't have any tense. Don't get it confused. This is only a continuous manner. This is not a tense. Similarly, here also you can see the V3 form of the verb. V3 form of the verb suggests the perfect manner of action only when it is preceded by a have. Unless there is a have preceded by the V3 form, it is not perfect. Perfect means not tense, it is only a manner of action. So unlike many other languages including Malayalam, English has got another combined manner of action, that is perfect and continuous. As we have seen above, for perfect we need have. Okay. For continuous we need be. Okay. And for continuous we need the ing form of the action verb, that is going. Going. Okay. This is perfect continuous mode. But this is wrong. You can see this is wrong. Have, be, going. This is wrong. Because just above you have seen that the have form of the verb is followed by the V3 form of the have form should be followed by the V3 form of the verb. That is a strict rule for making perfect action. And again, just above that you have seen that the be is followed by the ing form. That means this makes continuous, this makes perfect. Since this is a combination of both perfect and continuous, have as done here, have should be followed by the V3 form of be, that is been. So be is duly followed by the ing form, and thus we made perfect continuous form. This is perfect continuous form. Perfect continuous form. So these are the four manners of action with which every student of the English language must be proficient. In your school classes, your teachers must have given you a list of irregular verbs. A list of irregular verbs means a few verbs still remain irregular in the first and in the second and in the third form. For example, go itself. In the V1 form it is go. In the V3 form it becomes went. and in the V3 form again it undergoes change to become gone. And these three forms are irregular. This does not follow any regular pattern, but fortunately most of the English verbs are regular. For example, clear is a verb, or clean is a verb, or work is a verb. Work is the first form. When you change it to the second form, that becomes worked. That means you just added ed at the end of the verb. Again, you change it into the third form. You do the same thing, adding the ed at the end of the verb. That is work, worked, worked. That is regular. Most of the verbs are regular. Unfortunately, a few of the verbs still remain irregular, and there is no other go but to get the list by heart very proficiently. So now you have to take that list of irregular verbs. That is available on the internet, on channels. Okay, you can just Google it out. You just type in list of irregular verbs and you will get that readily. Okay, then you are supposed to learn the three forms of the irregular verbs very fluently, so much fluently that they must get registered in your mind. Okay, you don't forget the three forms even in your sleep or unconscious situation. Now let us consider another verb, an irregular verb, as usual. In the case of the regular verbs, it is very easy. You just add an ed at the end of the verb, it will become past, and in the past participle also do the same thing. But with the irregular verbs, you have no other go but to get them all by heart. We are now taking write, and the first form is write, the second is wrote, and the third written. Okay, V1, V2, V3, V2, V3. So these are only representatives. In fact, grammatically we call this present, past, and past participle. As in the case with the previous verb, here I have written to write as the simple form, to be writing as the continuous form, to have written as the perfect form, to have been writing as the perfect continuous form. See, to write, this is non-finite form. Non-finite form, I mean a verb having no tense. This is also non-finite. This suggests only the continuity of the action. I repeat, I stress that to be writing is only the continuity of the action. This doesn't convey any tense. Similarly, to have written suggests only the perfect action. That means the action is supposed to be finished. This is not present, not past, nor is it future. That means it is non-finite. This one, perfect continuous, as I have mentioned, is a due combination of have and be. That means perfect and continuous together. Therefore, this has its own grammatical ways that I will explain later, not now. It is no time to do so. So, this is the first step towards studying the English language. Unless you begin from here, you will get nowhere learning the language. Okay, this is the first step. And thus, we have 24 steps in total. When you have gone through 24 steps, we can say for sure that you will have learned everything about the English language and the grammar. No doubt, you will definitely start speaking the language very fluently. Besides writing on your own, that means without the help of others, whatever idea you have in mind, you can write in your own good English with no error at all. Only the condition is that you have to go through the 24 steps. We have designed the most effective 24 steps to help you learn the English language. We are teaching the English language not only to face the examinations or bank examination, no matter. We are teaching the English language as part of our bank coaching or SSC coaching with a view to improving your English to the best level so that you will find it much helpful till your last breath. For more details, contact our institute and the website which will be shown on the screen. Thank you.